Hello and welcome back to my power rankings of the 2025 Formula 1 season. Today I will rank the teams, tomorrow I will rank the drivers. And let's start with P10 after the Belgium Grand Prix. P10 is Alpine, and Gasly had a pretty strong weekend and he was rewarded finally with a well-deserved point. And without the technical issue he had in the sprint, maybe he scores and then he scores in sprint and main race. He's still the only point scorer of Alpine in this year. This indicates that they might look elsewhere for 2026. And Franco Colapinto had a quiet weekend without many major mistakes. Only positive I think is that he wasn't last, and for me he's too slow. Still not really an upgrade to Jack Doohan, other than that he brings the South American market. P9 is Aston Martin, and after a promising SQ1 where both were in the top 10, they only went backwards from there, and it ended with P19 and P20 in the main qualifying. They were a bit stronger in race pace, but it's safe to say that Spa wasn't their track, and they were the only team in Spa who didn't score a single point. P8 is Haas, who scored 6 points in the sprint with P5 and P7, which is an incredible result for them, but they couldn't replicate that in the main race. They did not finish in the top 10 at all, and if they would have finished the same positions as in the sprint, they would have scored 16 points, which would be by far the most in the midfield. And Oliver Behrman was close. He had a technical issue and got struck in the Pierre Gasly DRS train the entire dry stint and finished his fourth P11 in a main race in a row. And Ocon had to drive an extra lap on the intermediates, which screwed his race, and also he got used tires for the dry stint, which was kind of a double disadvantage. P7 is Sauber, and Bortoleto finished P9 in both events, scored 2 points in the main race. Nico Hülkenberg qualified weak again in sprint and the main race. These days it's difficult to pass in Spa, so he got into the points with his early stop on the dry tires, but lost the points after boxing again and becoming a part of the Gasly DRS train. In hindsight, he should have tried to stay out, in my opinion, but he argued that Gasly was so fast on the straight, he would have caught him easily anyways. P6 is VCAP, who finished P8 in both races and scored 5 points in total, and they both made Q3 for the main qualifying, and it seems like even more was possible with the technical issues that Hadja had in the main race, and he's also kind of on a streak of bad luck in the last couple of races. Lawson, on the other hand, had a strong weekend, seems finally find consistency in the last couple of races. P5 is Williams, who finished P6 in both races and got 11 points in total, but are still missing clean weekends. Albon got a technical issue in the sprint qualifying, made him basically be stuck in the back the entire sprint, and Sainz did kind of bad setup changes for the main qualifying after the strong sprint result. He started from the pit lane with a wet setup and got stuck in the mainly dry race. P4 Mercedes, who didn't score any points in the sprint, and George Russell bounced back with a P5 in the main race. Kimi Antonelli exited Q1 in both races, could not progress much from there. Really difficult weekend for them, and they have seemed to have gone in the wrong direction with the car a few races ago. I think Russell even said it in his interviews. P3 is Red Bull, where Verstappen had a really strong sprint with overtaking Piastri on lap 1 and bringing the sprint win home. He was again on the wrong setup for the main race, got stuck behind Leclerc the entire race, and he was also pretty vocal about delaying the race so long, which was the reason why he couldn't use his wet setup that much. Yuki Tsunoda improved in qualifying. He was P12 and P7 in the qualies and had a real shot for points in the race, but a miscommunication with the team made him stay out for another lap on the inters, and he lost 4 places in the pits, which led in the end to no points again, but I think this weekend was a positive sign from Tsunoda. P2 Ferrari, where Leclerc finished best of the rest behind the McLarens with 20 total points, together with Verstappen, of course, who also got 20. Was also maybe slower than Verstappen, but on a better setup and had a cleaner quali lap. Lewis Hamilton, on the other side, exited both Q1s and got no points in the sprint. He did an amazing recovery in the wet part of the race. The setup hindered further progress in the drive, and finally he finished behind the Williams in P7, which is of course not a great result, but after the qualifying he had, I think he takes it. And yeah, he still has to understand how the Ferrari works in qualifying on a consistent basis. P1 of course is McLaren. They finished P2 and P3 in the sprint and got another 1-2 in the main race. They finished miles ahead of anyone else, but I think the sprint showed even they can't pass around Spa these days. Situation in the main race was, I think, well managed by them by splitting the tire strategies, but all in all I think they really seem to let the drivers fight, which is so good for the championship and for excitement in Formula 1 in general. And I have to say, after the flexi wings were forbidden, they seem to be even stronger right now. These were my team rankings. Tomorrow we will see the drivers. See you then, and goodbye.